Hello, greetings from Klarman Hall at Harvard Business School. I'm Jill Fadule. I'm the Director of Joint Degree Programs here at Harvard. I'm also a member of the admissions board for both the MBA program and the MS MBA program. We're really excited to get started in just a moment. We're going to kick off by hearing from our HBS faculty co-chair of the program, Professor Tom Eisenmann, and he's going to tell you a little bit about the vision for the program. Then we're going to be joined by two members of the inaugural cohort of the MS MBA program, and they're going to share with you some of the distinctive features of the program and the reasons why they're excited about it. Then I will talk with you about our admissions criteria and the admissions process. But please keep in mind, this program is all about you. We're here to answer your questions and bring the program to life for you. So ask away, and we'll respond. Now I'd like to ask each of our speakers to please introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Tom Eisenmann. I'm faculty chair of the MS MBA. My counterpart from the engineering school, Rob Howe, is a professor of robotics. I'm also faculty chair of the Rock Center for Entrepreneurship at HBS, which works with alumni and students on extracurricular programming. I teach a core course in the MS MBA, Technology Venture Immersion, and a pretty broad range of technology courses beyond that in the MBA program.
Hi, I'm Emily Batt. I'm an inaugural member of the MS MBA cohort, and I'm also a proud member of Section G here at HBS. Prior to HBS, I got my degree in physics at Northeastern University, spent about 5 years as a mechanical design engineer at Fixed Product Development, and then about 3 at Kayak in product management. I spent the summer at a seed stage startup called Paperless Parts here in Boston.
Hi, my name is Ankith. I'm also a member of the inaugural MS MBA cohort along with Emily. I graduated from Cornell with a degree in mechanical engineering, and prior to HBS, I was working in esports or competitive video gaming at a startup company. And at HBS, I'm a proud member of Section A.
So thanks for tuning in, everybody. As Jill said, we wanted to start by giving you an overview of the program. So our objective is to train future leaders of technology ventures. The way we do that is with an emphasis on building foundations of general management through a heavy emphasis on design, and I'll come back to that. And then lastly, by building capabilities in understanding around engineering. So central element of the program, and really the part that joins the engineering school and the business school, is the emphasis on design. And we think of design very broadly. Design, of course, of products, but also you design your business models and you design your organizations. And the same structured approach and disciplined approach to thinking about design options and figuring out whether they're good options runs all through the program. We emphasize design through, we'll talk more about the curriculum later, but we have 5 core courses, each of which emphasizes different aspects of design. Program, as Jill said, is brand new. The first cohort started in August and will graduate in 2020. The program takes 2 years, essentially 21 months. So the students start in August and then finish in May of the second year. And as you'll hear in a few minutes, a lot of structure, but also a lot of flexibility, especially in the second year of the program. With that background, I want to ask Emily and Ankith, why did you pursue an MS MBA?
Yeah. Well, I've always been excited about technology and its capability to really affect broad change. But what I loved about the MS MBA program was that you could also take 2 years to really focus on your own leadership style and how you can maximize that change, leveraging your own strengths. And I didn't want to abandon the technical rigor that I had come to love in my career, so having the chance to pursue both the engineering curriculum and the business curriculum was really important to me.
For me, I always knew I was interested in entrepreneurship or tech ventures coming from a startup as well. And so I viewed going to business school, going to HBS as sort of a hedge, especially with the MS MBA program, to be able to do very risky things maybe later after the program, like created multiple different startups if one inevitably fails, but also the experience of being the first cohort of this new program and getting to bond with 30 individuals prior to the start of the actual MBA program and having a kind of smaller group of people that are your family before you get thrown into 1,000 people in the RC year.
RC is the first year of the
Yeah,
MBA program.
RC, yeah, so the required curriculum.
Required curriculum.
Yep. And so yes, being with so many like-minded individuals who all come from technical backgrounds, who are a lot of them interested in entrepreneurship as well, was just a great opportunity.
Did either of you worry about, so this is brand new, you took a risk with a program that had never been delivered before. How did you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Harvard has always had an incredible amount of resources for entrepreneurship and technical ventures, but what I saw on campus was a real excitement for this new program, and the chance to be a part of that, I think the excitement was contagious.
Yeah, I think something that just along those same lines, like speaking to alumni advisors or people in industry who maybe weren't even affiliated with HBS, when I told them I was considering this program, they were incredibly excited, saying if this had existed either when they were going to business school or maybe they never even went to business school, but they said that this is a program that they would be very interested in having done. And so that just got me very excited about this really combination of like engineering and business at this sort of level.
Well, we're excited too. So let's give the audience a sense for what the program's actually about. So I'll give that overview. Sort of go step by step through the 2 years, and then Ankith and Emily, I'll come back to you. And you've experienced already the first few months, and so you can comment on what it was like and what you learned, and what you think about what's coming next. So the program starts in August of the first year, and the courses, the cohort, there are 29 students in the first cohort, so they all meet together for 2.5 weeks in August. And it's an engineering course called Systems Engineering. I will let the two of you will describe it in a few minutes far better than I will. But we thought it was very important for the cohort to bond as a group, and that's a great way to do it, as Ankith said, before everybody enters the first year of the MBA program. So after that 2.5-week systems engineering course, the MS MBAs are dispersed to the 10 MBA sections. So MBAs are divided into 10 sections of about 90 apiece, and so about 3 MS MBAs ended up in each of those sections, and they in those sections do the entire required curriculum. It's just what you'd expect in an MBA program: a required course on marketing, on finance, on organizational behavior, leadership, accounting, strategy, entrepreneurship, and so forth. Along the way, every few weeks, we bring the group back together for a seminar where we bring in typically outside speakers, so we can talk about a few of those that we've done. For example, we brought in the head of Harvard University's Office of Technology Development, the Technology Licensing Office, to talk to the students about the work they do and opportunities for the MS MBAs to work on those types of projects. January, so one of the ways we can confer, I should have said earlier that the program confers 2 degrees, a Master of Science in Engineering Sciences and an MBA in the 2 years. It's very important. And the way we could fit all that in 2 years is we've stuck 3 extra courses. One, the August course I described, but then at Harvard we've got a long break, essentially from the middle of December to almost the end of January. And we were able to stick 2 more courses in there. In the first year, the course is called Technology Venture Immersion. 2 weeks long. It has 2 parts. Part 1 is all about prototyping. So the students will, in teams, build a device that uses sensors to actuate motors, and maybe we'll follow a laser around or something with Arduinos and laser cutters and 3D printers. Emily's smiling because she did this for a living
All
for
the
a long
good
time.
stuff.
But the idea is to build some basic skills around prototyping and also the skills on a team that has to integrate hardware, software, and electronic components. That's part 1. Part 2, again, in different teams, small teams, students will take an idea for a technology venture and move it as far as they can, basically from glimmer in their eye all the way to a pitch deck that they, at the end of that week, will present to a panel that includes investors, venture capitalists, seasoned entrepreneurs, and faculty members. So each day along the way in technology venture immersion, there'll be classes in the morning that emphasize through exercises and cases and so forth, some aspect of skills that are really important in launching an early stage technology venture, so marketing, assembling the team, fundraising, and so forth. And in the afternoon, the teams will go into studio and they'll take what they learned in the morning and push their venture forward, essentially building toward this pitch at the end of the week. Then the winter and spring of the first year is back to the required curriculum of the MBA program. Summer is off. We think a lot of people will work on a startup idea, or they'll go to internships in technology companies. And then second year is where a lot of flexibility comes to play. So there are some core courses required courses for the program. In the fall, there's a course called Integrated Design, which takes the design skills and moves them to the next level. And there's a capstone, as in a lot of master's level engineering programs, essentially a thesis project where, again, in teams will take a product concept and move it to launch, starting in January and then continuing in the spring semester. So in total, the MBAs will experience 3 or 4 intense design cycles where they go from idea to prototype and product launch over and over again, picking up new skills each time. Last component of the program is electives. So the students will take 4 MBA electives from a broad range. We offer more than 100 elective courses in the second year of the MBA program. And then likewise, we'll choose 3 technical engineering courses from the broad set of courses offered at SEAS. So that's the program, then graduation, and then off to do amazing things out in the world of technology. Ankith and Emily, you've experienced already several parts of this. So can you talk a little bit about what systems engineering did and what it was like?
Yeah, happy to talk about the August course. So in August, we spent about 3 weeks in systems engineering. The first half was really focused on statistics, so it was kind of a crash course in everything you need to know. The second half was about controls and systems design. And then for the final component, we combined those 2 modules to try to model a business plan for a startup. So you could pick any startup you wanted, either one that exists or one of your own idea, and use statistics and controls systems to understand the risks that business is facing and what sort of growth they could anticipate over time.
Yeah, and what was really unique about that course compared to courses that at least I took in undergrad were the statistics and the actual control system was like very theoretical with problem sets, but then the actual application, and it wasn't just an application in a problem, but like modeling an actual company that exists. Like I know a bunch of groups did like Spotify, Blue Apron. My group actually focused on one of my startup ideas, and it was interesting to actually be able to understand our business model, but also our operating model sensitivity to like certain parameters to figure out at what scale do we need to grow this business to actually be like financially viable or at scale for venture capitalists. And so like that's something that I had never experienced before in terms of just vetting startup ideas or concepts that you have. And it was just like a real true application of these technical skills in an entrepreneurial environment.
We got a question that came in asking about relationships with faculty. What are the relationships with the faculty like?
Yeah, well, I think because the cohort is so small, you have really incredible access to faculty. You're with them every day in August before the RC starts, and you have the ability to build relationships beyond the classroom. So for advice with your startup or actually career advice in general, I think the access to faculty is unparalleled.
Yeah, definitely. I think for being the first cohort, but then also like the first few cohorts that go through, there is actually just such genuine excitement about this program. Like all the faculty, even like the MBA faculty who aren't even directly involved in the program are excited to hear that this is happening and are interested to like meet with you and understand like what you're working on or what you're hoping to get out of the program. And so it's like like Emily said, you can actually approach any faculty. A lot of the time they approach you and ask you how the MS MBA is doing, and they're just excited to hear about what we as a cohort are up to.
There was another question about intellectual property, and I think maybe Tom could be helpful here because you've had many students deal with some of that. But you're working in these teams and you're developing great ideas, and how do we think about who owns that intellectual property?
Yep. So there are 2 questions that folks have to think about there. One is, does the university have any ownership of what the teams are working on? And the second is, how do the team members sort out who owns what? And with respect to the university, as is the case at across everything we do at Harvard, unless the idea makes heavy use of resources in for example, the Harvard laboratories, that the assumption is the students own the IP. And our colleagues in engineering have got a lot of experience figuring out what heavy use means. But in most cases, I think the kinds of projects, in some cases, it's already clear that the MS MBAs, for the project work they'll do in January in the Tech Venture Immersion course, we've shared with them. We had my colleague Rob Howe brought in, spoke to his counterparts in various labs and asked them, do you have any inventions that are ready for commercialization where no one's done the basic work of figuring out what the market looks like? And we had a science fair, basically a project fair. And so those are all examples of ideas that were moved along with heavy involvement of Harvard labs and grants from, say, the National Institutes of Health or NSF or so forth. So in that case, it would get sorted out with the university's technology licensing office, Office of Technology Development, who owns what, and if the venture moves forward, then the entrepreneurs moving it forward, including the MS MBAs, would license the technology from the university. Far more typically the case when our MBAs launch programs, it's not done with technologies coming out of labs, and then it's simple and straightforward. The student entrepreneurs own the idea. It's up to them, though, then to sort out who on the team is going to take the idea forward, and if they're going to launch a business, how are they going to divide the equity in that business? Yeah. Is that consistent with what you heard and learned?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
There was a question about how you've experienced the early days of the program, and were there any kind of things confirmed about your expectations or any surprises along the way about what you were expecting from the program?
Sure. So I think one of the biggest questions I had coming in, which my expectations were like my experience would probably be very bifurcated, was how a part of the community would I feel at HBS and also at C's, in terms of like they're two different schools. Physically, they're across the river, but that's actually changing as C's moves campuses. Actually, in 2020, the year we graduate, to just be right across the street from HBS. And I was actually very pleasantly surprised. I think that the way that the program is structured, you definitely get the core HBS experience. You get to be part of your section. You're socializing with your section as often as you want to. But you also like get to be part of C's really well, like just not in the MS MBA cohort, but the School of Engineering. We're on all of their listservs in terms of like the graduate students. We have regular meetups in terms of happy hours or in terms of just like scientific talks or discussions. And so it's a really unique position that you get to take within the university of being integral to both these communities and feeling like you're part of everything and you're not compromising anywhere on your experience.
Well, I want to keep going. So you must have had expectations for what the case method would be like, and how hard you'd work in the MBA program. So how's that all going?
Yeah, I mean, that's been surprising to me, actually. I'm loving the business classes way more than I expected. It's just so different from anything I've experienced before. The case method absolutely is pushing at my comfort zone. I think sometimes as a scientist, my comfort zone is to be in observational mode and collect data for a long time before making a decision. But what the case method does is really encourages you to be to have a lot of conviction in what you're presenting, but also to remain open to having that view challenged and to really engage in an active dialogue. And even in the few weeks that we've been here, I've noticed the way that I converse in my everyday life has changed, and I think that's one element of transformation I didn't expect to experience so quickly.
Yeah. For me, what's been very surprising about the actual HBS curriculum is finance is actually one of my favorite classes and that I learned the most. And coming into this program, I did not expect that to be the case. But it's interesting how these concepts, they're taught in such a way that you're engaged with material and you're not just learning financial equations of solving, again, problems, but rather these are companies that were dealing with situations in terms of maybe it was venture funding for their startup company. And so how you actually get funding and how you, or like, do you choose to get funding? Do you raise debt? Do you bootstrap? All of these are decisions that I very well may have to make in the future, and these people actually that we're reading about did make. And so learning of what's happened in the past and how they overcame these obstacles, I think is invaluable to moving forward with your own venture or whatever you want to do.
May I ask one more about surprises? So I think in a lot of technology companies, the engineers in particular have strong views about what business people are like and what MBAs are like. And so you're surrounded for the first year by MBAs. Are they like what you expected?
I mean, I think the thing about HBS is that you get people from every background imaginable. Just being in the room with my section every day, I'm blown away with what people bring to the table. So I think that, I didn't really know what to expect. I thought I might be a fish out of water, but what I feel is that I'm being challenged every day and I'm learning every day and I'm loving every minute of it. So in a way, I think that was surprising to me. But I don't know. I don't think you can generalize the type in the way that some people.
You worked in a company started by 2 Harvard MBAs. So
Yeah, I think that
you had an advantage coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't have any negative preconceptions prior to HBS, but I think the general feeling of engineers working in either tech companies is that the MBAs are kind of the business people. They don't really understand what you're doing or what you're building, and they kind of tell you what to do without like actually doing it themselves. And I think coming here, that was like, I actually didn't believe it to come in, but I think even just seeing the people in the classroom, like there are actually so many people interested in technology here. And it's not only technical people in the MS MBA who are very entrepreneurially focused. Like if you go to the iLab, which is one of the great resources Harvard has for building startups, it's just a community, like a working space that anybody can work on their startup idea. There's so many people that are always working on something. And it's actually a great position for the MS MBAs in that a lot of people in the MBA are actually trying to build things, and they're always looking for help or advice from people who have the technical skills, whether it's coding or 3D printing or designing with CAD software. And so they are actually just as entrepreneurially mindset or like technology focused as we are, and so it's great to work with them.
A question came in about the advantage of doing the joint MBA with the MS or doing a standalone MS and a standalone MBA. What do you think are the advantages for doing the joint degree?
Yeah, well, I would say this program is new, so we don't know exactly how it will play out in the long run. But for me, I was just excited to be able to spend my time in business classes and engineering classes. And being able to do it on the 2-year timeline was really appealing to me because I'm eager to get out there and work and build what I want to build. And having it, be the same time footprint as the normal MBA experience was really appealing.
Yeah. I think the timeline's a huge part. A lot of the people I talked to before getting admitted into the HBS MS MBA program were saying, like, if you're interested in entrepreneurship, you could just go out and do it. There's no impetus or reason to actually go to an MBA program. The MS MBA really changes that, but then also it's only a 2-year investment versus 4 years if you want to do both masters separately, or even 3 years at other programs. And I think that there's a huge opportunity cost to whenever you go back to school for graduate studies, and it's what else could you be doing? And I think that by crafting this program in such a deliberate way for just the 2 years, you get so much value out of the 2 years. You're not taking up extra time financially. It's only 2 years of school versus 3 or 4 years of school. And I think that you really maximize what you get out of just 2 years as opposed to doing the program separately.
Yeah, so when the team that designed the program, we had a blank sheet of paper at the start. We could have done whatever we wanted, including a master's that was neither an MS nor an MBA, and we considered that possibility as possibly a way to get it done in 18 months or a year or 2 years. But we knew we wanted to train future leaders of technology ventures who need to know about both technology and business. And so I didn't know how much of the business you'd need to put into the program at the beginning. I went and I had a hypothesis, maybe we could cut out half of the first year of the MBA. And I went session by session through the first year of the MBA and said, nope, got to keep that. Nope, yep, you need the accounting, you need the finance, you need the marketing, you need the leadership. And came to the conclusion that you pretty much have to have the whole thing. So we feel very strongly that the MS and the MBA belong together, but it ought to be a full MBA. So.
We have a fun question that came in, which is, I hope we have time for this one, because it's, what do you like to do outside of the classroom?
Time outside of the classroom is very limited these days.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that one thing I love talking about is the art scene in Boston. When I was working, it was really important to me that I stay involved in kind of creative outlets outside of engineering, and that's something I love to do. So, yeah, play guitar
What kind of art?
badly. I play guitar really badly.
What kind of art was the art scene?
Well, I see a lot of live music. I love the Gardner Museum, the ICA. So being in Boston at Harvard, all of that is right at your fingertips, and that's something I would encourage everyone to check out.
Mine's not as creative of an answer. So actually, I co-founded a company with another MSMBA student, John Keck, and so a lot of the time that we're not in class, we're choosing to work on a startup company. And interestingly, that startup company, both of us were mechanical engineers, John and I, but that startup company is in artificial intelligence, like machine learning and time management. And so we're both learning that skill set over time. He has more experience at it than I do, but I think that's actually one of the ways I've kind of naturally kind of developed my skills through the program is taking on these new skill sets that I haven't previously had, and then also looking forward to the elective courses we take next year in terms of like machine learning and neural networks and stuff like that. Like those are the courses I'm eyeing next year, not only for its applicability to like what I'm currently working on, but just like of general interest and not having done that in undergrad.
Great.
Where did you work in New York or Boston?
Boston, I was local.
Boston, so
Yeah.
both of you in Boston.
Yeah.
So we're getting some questions about admissions, and so I think I might take a quick minute to talk a little bit about that before we go back to the questions for students and our faculty chair. So you've heard these wonderful things about the program. I think you're probably hoping to join us, and I want to tell you, what we're looking for the next cohort of MSMBA students. First off, we really want people who aspire to lead technology ventures. Second, we'd like people who have undergraduate degrees in engineering, computer science, or related technical fields. Third, we want people who have at least 2 years of full-time work experience, ideally in designing and developing new products. Technology-intensive products would be great. And the last thing is the people admitted to the MSMBA have to satisfy all of the requirements of the MBA program. And the criteria for the MBA program are threefold. We want people who have demonstrated a habit of leadership, who have strong analytical aptitude and a real appetite to do that kind of work, as well as people who are involved in the communities around them. So that's what we're looking for. We're thrilled with the 29 students that are part of this cohort with Ankith and Emily because they are fabulous people, fabulous students, and they come from very diverse professional work backgrounds. Yes, we have several from giant tech companies like Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon. We also have people from big companies that might not be giants quite yet, like Uber or SpaceX or Tesla or Kayak, like Emily. And then we have people from traditional manufacturing companies like GE, Procter & Gamble, Eaton. And then we have several of their classmates who are very, very interested in life sciences and healthcare. We have a few with military backgrounds. We have a few with cybersecurity backgrounds. We have 9 people who, like Ankith and Emily, have startup experience already. And we have 2 people who came into the program already being co-founders. So you can see we welcome people from a variety of backgrounds, and we really think that's important to making the cohort work so well, is that we have people from such different backgrounds. The process to apply to this program is as follows. You need to be admitted to both the MBA program and the Master of Science in Engineering program. But the application is being hosted at HBS. So all the elements to your application will be hosted by HBS, but there will be 2 independent decisions made, one by the MBA admissions board and one by the MSMBA committee. What's required to apply for the MBA are a few things. There are some application forms that we get to know a little bit about you. You send us your resume. We get 2 letters of recommendation. You respond to our essay prompt. We get your undergraduate transcripts. We get transcripts from any graduate work you may have done. We get your standardized test scores. We take either the GMAT or the GRE. We're completely indifferent as to which one you send us. And if your undergraduate study was at a school where English was not the primary language of instruction, then you also need to submit a proficiency test, an English proficiency test, like the TOEFL. So that's what is required for the MBA program. For the MS MBA program, we look at all of those same things, plus we get one additional supplemental essay addressing your interest in this program. And if you're invited to come for an interview, you will then be asked to submit one additional letter of recommendation. And that third letter of recommendation should come from somebody who can speak specifically to your technical capabilities. Now, if you want to join us in August of 2019 and be part of the second ever cohort of MS MBA students, you would apply by January 4th. So hopefully that gets at some of the questions that have been coming in on admissions, and we'll turn to see what's coming down the pike. The question is, do you have to be as impressive as Emily and Ankith to get in? And how would you tackle that one?
That's very nice. Thank you, whoever said that. I would say just be yourself when you apply. I mean, we all took a risk to apply, and I really used the essay writing experience as a time to reflect on what I wanted to get out of these next 2 years. I think that coming here, doing an MBA program at all was not a foregone conclusion for me, so I wanted to use the application period to really think about what I wanted to get in my career, and that period of reflection has actually been pretty helpful in making sure that I'm making the most of my time here when there's so much to do and so many opportunities.
Yeah, I think she said it perfectly. Yeah.
Well, and I'm fortunate I get to work with these students very closely, and I will tell you they are just wonderful human beings. They may have, lots of great accomplishments under their belt, but they are so generous with their time, and they really did adhere to all those criteria that I mentioned to you, but they all also came with lots of growth plans and development needs and ways that they want to improve. And one thing I would say is we often hear on the road that people don't apply because, of this reason or that reason, but the odds of getting in if you don't apply are 0. You don't have to be in the MS MBA to figure that out. So if this program speaks to you, you should definitely go for it and give it a shot. So I'll add that as my 2 cents. We had a question about growth. I know you've only been here a short time, but do you feel, or maybe your family is telling you, your friends are telling you, do you feel that you've been starting to grow in some way?
Definitely. I think on a personal note, coming to HBS is just a massive exercise in prioritization, right? Like there are so many different directions that you're being pulled, whether it's social events, whether it's putting time into your cases with working on your own startup or club events. There's so many things going on that there's actually not enough hours in the day, and you're always prioritizing one thing or another. And I think what it's forced me to do just personally is step back and think about what are my priorities, and always making sure you put people above anything else, like your family, your loved ones above anything else, and making sure you talk to them, but then also understanding where do you actually want to spend your time for these 2 years, because it really goes by very quickly. We're already a quarter done, one semester done of with our first year, and it feels like it went by in just a month. And so it's very short, so how do you get the most out of it? And it's just it forces you to be very introspective in what you actually want to accomplish and where you actually get the most satisfaction. You might not actually know. I came into it not knowing where I wanted to spend a lot of my time, and it was just going to different things, and it's spreading kind of a wider net initially, understanding what I felt like I wanted to spend my time in, and then just going all in on that, and consciously deprioritizing other things, because you just won't be able to get everything you want.
Can you each guess where you'll spend the summer?
Oh gosh, yeah, I don't know yet. I think that if everything goes well in TVI, then I'll be working on my own idea, maybe with some other MS MBA students, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think right now, if things keep moving, we'll definitely be working on the startup that we are co-founding over the summer. If not, then I think another very early stage tech company, just go out and get really early experience at building something from the ground up again in a different industry.
Cool.
So a question came in about student clubs, and I'll preface it by saying to the audience that we have 90 student clubs on our campus. And the question was, are you involved in any student clubs or any that you would like to highlight for us?
Yeah, so I'm a member of the Tech Club and also Code at HBS, and then I've also been following the Women in Investing Club because I think knowing and understanding the other side of the table for venture capital is really important when you're thinking about being a startup operator.
You should say a word about what Code is.
Oh, well, it's a pretty recent club here at HBS, really focused on making sure that MBA students understand the role of software engineering in broader business contexts. So what they offer are a lot of boot camp style workshops where you can learn how to code from no prior experience required, and you can come out with lines of code written to your own name.
So like Emily, I'm also in Tech Club. I'm also in Entrepreneurship Club, and actually just last week we successfully founded the Esports and Gaming Club.
Yay.
That was approved
I was wondering about that.
by HBS, and so I think both of us were very conscious in limiting the number of clubs we join. A lot of students, potentially ones that want to devote more time to the club, join 5 or 6 or 7, because there's so many different clubs with a variety of interests being catered to that you could spend all your time doing club activities because there's just so much fun and you're meeting such great people. So yeah, I guess we've consciously limited the clubs we've joined, but there's stuff for everybody and you can be as involved in them as you want.
For the audience, the clubs will all run a weekend conference where they bring in a lot of outside speakers, keynote speakers and so forth, and they'll bring in pretty regularly afternoon speakers, again, often alumni, to come in and talk about various topics, and then the kinds of workshops that Emily described.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a question for me that I will pose and I will answer, which is it possible if you don't get into MS MBA, can you still be admitted to the MBA? And definitely you can, and that definitely happened and will happen again, where somebody is interested in MS MBA, is an awesome candidate for MBA, gets admitted to MBA, but the MS MBA committee didn't feel that it was a great match for MS MBA. And there are quite a few of those students that are in your sections, and they're getting an amazing experience and joining probably some of the same clubs and taking advantage of some of the same resources that you're taking advantage of. So that's absolutely no problem. Oh, yes. And this question came in a little bit ago. You each had some time away from school, and now you were kind of immersed back in school, especially with that systems engineering course. Mm-hmm. How did you feel? Did you feel as though you were prepared to sort of be a student all over again?
It definitely takes a very short, abrupt period of readjustment, but I think it just, for engineers, I think it comes back, it's flexing those old muscles again in terms of remembering these equations and stuff that you also have some familiarity with, but you might not have used in a few years.
How many problem sets in that course?
We did one every single day.
Yeah, so 13 weeks worth of content delivered in 13 days with 13 problem sets.
So it was
a big project at the end.
Very intense, but I think, the course curriculum also gradually ramped us up over the first few days, was very much review, and then got to a lot of new material. So, and then going to HBS, the case method is very much different than how traditional lectures are taught in undergrad universities, and I think there's no best way to prepare, but rather just you go through it and you learn after going through the first initial cases, and there's nothing to be stressed out about there.
Okay. There was a question that came in about mentorship and advising for the MS MBA program, and I feel as though Ankith has taken advantage of some of our alumni advisor relationships, and maybe could speak to that or speak to other forms of mentorship or advising that you're getting.
Yeah, so actually, about my decision to come to the HBS MS MBA program, I talked with a lot of alumni of just HBS about what their thoughts were on this program. I was curious to see how the industry would respond to this, mainly the tech industry and also the VC startup ecosystem, because it is a new program, and so if just as good as the program is, if the industry either hadn't heard about it or is not sure how they feel about it, that very much underscores the value that the program brings, and that they were all extremely excited about it. But then also during my time here, there's so many entrepreneurs and residents at the iLab that are also mentors of the MS MBA program, and actually one of them was a speaker that we actually had just last week, going in and talking about what we're doing, how we're spending our time here, so just more personal life stuff, but then also, here's a startup idea I'm working on. What are your thoughts on it? How do you think we should MVP this, or here's what we're MVPing, do you think this is right or not? or how do you do consumer research in the best way, they might not also be the best people to answer that because they might have done something in different areas, but they've connected us to great people to talk to. And in general, it's just you're getting such valuable feedback from very successful individuals who are almost, they feel invested in us as well, like because we're the early cohort of the program. And so it's really nice to have them like supporting us in everything that we do.
And I know, Tom, you have been visited by quite a few of the students for some one-on-one meetings. You mentioned that right after this, you're going to go meet with one of our students. So
Yep.
how have those been going?
I love it. It's what I do. So Rob Howe, my counterpart, is co-chair from the engineering school, and I formally play the role of advisor to all the students and coach them on course selection, but that sort of turns into questions about what will I do for the summer, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just nonstop, and it's fantastic. And then in addition to the two of us, we've obviously got a lot of faculty colleagues. So in the capstone course in the second year, odds are high that from an engineering perspective, Rob won't be the natural advisor, depending on what technology somebody's working on, if it's in computer science. So we'll grab colleagues who will end up mentoring and coaching very closely in that context. And then some of the folks that Ankith mentioned, we've got a formal alumni advisory board comprised of about 30 at this stage, and it keeps growing. Alums of both schools, all of whom have had an engineering or computer science degree or something similar, and all of them work in technology, either in product roles or engineering roles, or in some cases venture capitalists. And those folks have expressed a willingness to coach students on any range of issues. In the admissions process, does this make sense for me? Summer jobs, and then when folks come up with startup ideas, or when they're looking for an internship. So the alumni advisors will be super important to the program.
Great. One thing to point out too is that this is the inaugural cohort, and they are like an amazing source of mentorship and guidance for the next cohort. We hosted a marketing event here on campus just 2 weeks ago, and we were expecting 2 of your classmates to come and be representatives of the program. And when we opened the door to have the 2 walk in, 12 of you walked in to spread the word of this program and how much you're enjoying it. So I know the person who asked that question, you're going to have mentors in Ankith and Emily and their classmates as well, which is going to be fantastic. So a question came in that is for me again, and it's about scholarships or fellowships, as we call them here. And the question was, are there scholarships? And yes, there are. The way that we do financial aid for this program is we host the financial aid process also at HBS, and it happens after you gain admission to the program. So you don't need to worry about it now. And we have a need-blind admissions process, so we're not worrying about anything to do with money when we're reading your application, and we choose people based on their merits. And then when we start the financial aid process soon after you get admitted, you send us all of your information, you fill out the forms, and we determine based on your need, your demonstrated financial need, whether or not you qualify for a fellowship. And for us, fellowship means it's money that we're giving you that you don't have to pay back. And about 60% of the cohort of 29 qualified for need-based fellowship. And on average, the fellowship size is about $40,000 each year, so $80,000 total. So yes, we do provide that kind of financial assistance. Okay, it looks as though we could take maybe one more question if there's a question coming in.
Yeah, there's something that you said earlier about mentorship that kind of stuck out in my mind, and I would just add that among your cohort, there's absolutely the opportunity for mentorship. So I came in with, my own personal experiences are very different from those of the rest of the cohort, and just being able to bounce ideas off of people with different work experiences has been really useful. So in the iLab the other day, John sat down with me and told me how to web scrape for the first time, because that was just a personal goal of mine, something I wanted to learn. So he went out of his way, took time out of his busy day to share something that he really loves. So I think that there's opportunity for mentorship both horizontally and vertically here.
Yeah, and at the same time, Emily also reviewed some of our design of landing pages because she has a background in design at
They look
Kayak.
good.
So
Yeah,
we had no experience in actual UI UX design prior to this, and so we put together what we thought would be a good landing page and got it reviewed by Emily. Got some great feedback, and so speaking of mentorship, it goes every which way among the cohort, and it's great.
I'm excited for you guys to launch your product.
So we just recently went through midterm exams, and we have a course here called TOM, which is Technology and Operations Management, and our students in the MS Mba program are sort of TOM stars. But one of the students, one of your classmates, Akash, shared with me that he ran a 3-hour review session for the midterm for anyone in his section who needed a little extra help. So there's a lot of mentoring and teaching going on amongst the cohort. So one question that just came in was that given that you're getting 2 degrees in 2 years and you have some extra requirements, as Tom described, are there things you feel as though you're giving up in order to do these 2 degrees?
Yeah, I mean, I think that in the second year of the program, you're splitting your time between classes at HBS and classes at Cs. So I think the program is perfect for people who want that balance. But if you're more excited about one or the other, then it might make sense to specialize in those and either get a master's or just the MBA. But the opportunity to have both was exactly what I wanted. But in terms of the social experience, I don't think that you're giving up anything really from either by doing the joint program. I absolutely feel like I'm getting the full section experience here at HBS, and I think you said this earlier, Ankith, that you can be as involved with Cs as you want, even during your RC year, while you're spending your time on this campus here.
Yeah. I mean, quite literally, you are giving up 3 HBS electives in the second year and replacing those with the master's level C's courses. But I think that's one literal trade-off that you know you're going to make. And so if you do have the combined interest in business and technology and you're willing to make that trade-off, then there's no unexpected compromises that you have to make down the road. And it's much better than expected, I guess, because it was very uncertain how the first year would go. And so aside from that, and if you know that coming in, then I think you'll be very happy.
Great. Well, this has been a pleasure to have this conversation with you all, and thank you all for joining. First, thank you, Tom, thank you, Emily, and thank you, Ankith, for sharing these perspectives so candidly and thoroughly. And thank you to our audience for joining us and for sending us great questions. We look forward to reading your stories when you apply to the MS Mba program. Thank you.
Cool.
Great job.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That went by really fast.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, I looked,
a lot
I was like, did we
faster
last
than-
the 45 minutes? And it's exactly 46
Oh my
minutes.
gosh. Oh, I thought it was...
I was taking off my necklace instead of my microphone. Okay.